What up, everybody? It's Aaron with Robert. We're Geek Your Geek On, and we are here to talk our review of episode 1 of a show I can actually say the name of, Loki.
You said it right.
I did. I can say a name.
Now, can you tell me the name of the episode? No. Glorious Purpose. Right?
His favorite line.
Yeah, we are going to talk about this show. And there goes Aaron's phone.
It would not have been
just like always.
It's muted now. All right.
But yeah, we're here to talk through Loki. This is going to be a review. I would say it's a spoiler review. I don't know that there's a ton to spoil, except for kind of the final reveal, I guess.
Like who the villain is.
Yeah, we'll hold off on that, or who they say the villain is. And we're going to get into whether or not we think that's true. But we'll save that for the end. But if you haven't watched the show, obviously go watch the show and then come back and watch our review. So yeah, we got Tom Hiddleston, we got Owen Wilson, we got Gugu Mbatha-Raw. I got that one. Don't you worry about it. And a few other character actors that are in this. We get a lot of, this is like 51 minute episode.
Yes, nice episode.
I would say there's like 10 to 12 minutes of previous MCU footage in this movie. So
Probably,
there is a lot to get. There's footage from Endgame. There's footage
Avengers.
from the first Avengers, from I think, Thor: The Dark World for sure. Some a little bit from Ragnarok.
Yep.
They're kind of, we get to see a lot of Loki's history.
It's basically the life of Loki over the last, 5-6 movies he's been in?
A little bit. So, tell me, I guess, just your initial thoughts on the episode. How did you feel about it?
So, going into it, I wasn't sure. I'll be honest, I wasn't sure about the chemistry between Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson. Because I was like, Owen Wilson's very sarcastic and very, you haven't seen his humor in a while either. Like, his kind of movies, they don't really make those kind of movies anymore, I don't think.
Okay.
So I was wondering how it was going to be, and I loved them. Their
awesome.
chemistry on screen, it was just amazing. I loved every scene with them two in it.
Yeah. And
the banter, the jokes, I did love his joke. I don't like talking. No, that's a lie. You know you like to lie,
right?
And that was a lie because you like to talk. And
yeah,
I love that whole part.
That was in a trailer, but it still worked in the show. I had seen it before, but I still liked it. Yeah.
I thought the whole show was done perfectly. And another part from the trailer, I liked the DB Cooper scene. Actually got to. I didn't think we were going to see that for a little bit, but we saw that right away.
And I do love that it was, explained away as like he lost a bet to Thor.
Lost a bet to Thor.
I'm like, that is the most Loki thing ever, to be DB Cooper because you lost a bet to Thor. And if you don't know the story of DB Cooper, just look it up. We don't want to recap it here, but
it's too much.
It's very funny to insert Loki into that and say that's what happened. I wonder if they're going to give us any more things like that.
I hope so.
Like historical times when Loki was being the god of mischief on Earth.
So. It would just be so cool. Because that's an easy explanation. Yep, Heimdall just sent them back through the Bifrost Bridge. That's cool.
Which is kind of weird in a sense, because the rules that they established in the first Thor movie seem to establish that the Bifrost happens in a particular place.
Yeah.
It's always in New Mexico, because that's how Jane Foster is able to figure out where it's going to be.
Yeah.
But then in later movies, it's wherever the Bifrost needs to be. It's wherever Thor needs to show up.
It's okay.
Because they do it at the Avengers compound, because you get the Tony Stark, that man has no respect for lawn maintenance.
Oh, I forgot about that.
He does it when he comes to get Jane in Thor: The Dark World. So they really do use it everywhere, except in that first movie. It's contained to just that one set.
It's because they figured it out. It's just, they took some time.
Well, and when they rebuilt it, they had better aim.
Exactly. See, they had to rebuild it.
Yeah, because it did get destroyed at the end of Thor. So there you go.
See, there you go.
In-universe explanation.
Yep.
We just
got
it.
Glad I could help.
So no, I agree with you. I think this is a really good episode. It's mostly setup. It's
yes.
Background and setup. We're not getting a whole lot of payoff on this. I sometimes have a problem with that. Mm-hmm. But in this episode, it felt like the setup was so good and what we were getting was so interesting.
Yeah.
That I really enjoyed it. And I would say, there were a few standout things for me. Number one, I loved the character of I think his name was Curtis, the guy that checked in the Tesseract, and then Loki ended up threatening him. And I love kind of where he's I just want to understand what I'm being threatened with before I comply.
If I want to comply.
Yeah.
It's a fish. You don't know how you know what a fish is.
Right, yeah. And so, like, I enjoyed that. And the whole joke about, like, oh, we get these Infinity Stones all the time, and they're just paperweights. And it's one of those things where it's funny because obviously the setup that they have of, like, these variants is, like, people that branch outside of what they're supposed to do. And so all these times throughout history where people that weren't supposed to have possession of the Infinity Stones got one, and then it's like, okay, the TVA comes in and just, whisks them away. Here you go.
You're not supposed to have that.
So I thought that was definitely interesting. And I think the part that I thought was really clever, the way that they did it, is, Loki has gone on a journey in 10 years. He starts off, in Thor, he, finds out that he's not, a biological, Asgardian.
Exactly.
And, he feels betrayed. He wants, he wants the approval of Odin. It's all those things that drives a lot of his actions. And then, of course, in the Avengers, it's kind of sort of canon, although I don't know that it's ever been officially confirmed, is that he was a little bit under the influence of the Mind Stone from Thanos.
Yeah.
Kind of turning him into more of a rage-induced and vengeful type of person. But then we saw his journey from Thor: The Dark World with losing his mother, and then into Thor Ragnarok, where he loses Odin, and him and Thor kind of he makes the choice at the end to be the hero, while also still taking the Tesseract. And then he makes that final moment in Infinity War where he, I love his speech where he kind of, cites who he is. He's, the rightful king of Jotunheim, Odin's son, and he, it's a very pointed look at Thor as he says that. He's finally accepting who he is and, kind of his legacy and all that, and then he gets killed.
Yeah.
And so this version didn't experience all of that catharsis, all of those moments of, his mom and his dad and Thor accepting him and loving him and all those things. He still kind of feels like the villain.
Yeah.
And so I really loved the way that they brought him back to that place by having him be able to view all those things and still, even though he didn't personally experience them, he's still able to now be at that point where he can be more of an anti-hero, with maybe more emphasis on the hero part than we would maybe have expected coming out of Avengers, which is who this character is.
And I think that's a perfect explanation, because the fact is we had to somehow give him that heart, essentially, that we as the viewers have gotten to know over the last few years.
Right.
And now we got to instill this in 40 minutes to a character who isn't supposed to have that. Yeah. And I think the questions that Owen Wilson's character, Morbius is his name. Mobius. Something like that. Okay. See, I eventually get it. His questions made Loki think about everything, really. Yeah. And I think those questions mixed with the here's your life story kind of thing is what really helped bring that character back to what we know him now as the Loki we've seen in the more recent films. And I think they did it well. It was executed perfectly. And I did like that we finally get, because Owen Wilson made a good point. Do you like killing? No, you like taking eyeballs. Like that was, it was a joke, but it was like, that's true. You're supposed to be the god of mischief. Right. You're not supposed to really be killing people. Left and right.
It's cruel. It's vengeful. It's all those things. I liked that dynamic, and especially when he explicitly calls him out for basically saying you are responsible for your mother's death, which. They probably would have killed her whether he had sent them up the stairs or not, whatever. But we do know that in Thor: The Dark World, Loki does kind of feel guilty.
He does.
So it's giving him that same feeling.
Which is what you need.
Yeah, and it really drives him forward. I agree with you. I think that the dynamic between Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston was really great. I do want to say that I really loved the opening of the introduction to the TVA, where Loki has no idea what's going on. He keeps trying to be Loki, and like, you know, first like the robot strips all his clothes, and then he's falling.
Is fine, Asgardian leather.
Right, and he's falling through the different rooms, and you got the one guy like, you know, are you a robot, or you know, do you have a soul? And you could see he's like, I know I'm not a robot, but I'm a little bit like, if I am, like, what's gonna happen? Like, and so yeah, like that was all super interesting. The stuff with the ticket was funny. You know, it kind of reminded me of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade when they're on the blimp, and you know, he kind of is like, you know, he punches out the Nazi guy, and then everyone's like, what's happening? He's like, no ticket, and everyone's like, I got one. So yeah, that was humorous, and then the courtroom scene was great too.
The courtroom scene was perfect for Loki too. And I want to comment.
I'm guilty of this. You know, what are you doing?
What is he doing? He's trying to use his magic. Hold on, no one talk.
Funny. Yeah.
Now I want to talk about the scene where, like you said, but we're seeing him fall through these different floors. So we get the clothes stripped off. He's no longer wearing his normal attire.
Right.
Do you think, and this is just me reaching, the next guy we see is that asks him to sign here as this is everything you've ever said.
Right.
Big stack of papers. The cat. Do you think that cat is not a cat? Maybe.
I mean, it could be a flirkin. Again.
I really kind of hope it's a flirkin, because it's like, what if someone tries to stab him? Well, that cat right there just eats him. Like, oh, you're gonna attack my master? I'm just gonna eat you now.
Yeah.
Because it was like just random to me.
Yeah, they kind of lingered on the cat. So
yeah,
so could be a flirkin.
I think he's a flirkin. I think that's what he is. And then we drop to the next part. Now, somebody was telling me, or I was watching a video. If you notice the music, it's the same music almost as Thor Ragnarok. It's that same synthesizer sound.
A little
to
bit,
it.
yeah.
I was like, that was really interesting. That whole scene right there. And then now I kind of want to say we get another throw at a LMD. Because again, are you a robot? They don't know they're robots. LMDs are not supposed to know they're robots. Yep. And he's like, of course I'm not a robot. Well, wait a minute. What if I am a robot? Would I know I'm? Then he's like, wait, I'm confused.
It was funny.
And I felt like that was a kind of a little nod to maybe there's LMDs out there still that have also broken the time barriers. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
And like going to the scene where he gets a ticket, I didn't get the point of the other guy except to maybe show Loki you need a ticket or else we're going to vaporize you.
Well, it's kind of like in Thor Ragnarok when Thor goes through that like welcome to Sakaar video,
exactly.
You know, kind of thing, and then he exits it out of it, and you've got the Grandmaster, and he's kind of quirky, and you're like, what's going on? And then he like melts the guy right next to Thor.
Same concept.
And so it is very much to like show you they don't mess around here.
Yeah.
Right? And you know, maybe you're out of your element.
Exactly.
You know, and so I did just, you know, kind of piggybacking off that same scene, the little animated video about, you know, you're a variant and you showed up here, and, you know, like explaining the TVA. I thought that was a really clever way to do it. Again, it's like reminiscent of like Jurassic Park.
Yes.
You know, it's like...
It really was, now that you said that.
You know, like cartoon, you know, like Mr. DNA, you know,
oh my
like
God,
doing
I
all
forgot
that.
about him.
So yeah, I mean, it's picking some clever ways to get across exposition. Because this is a super exposition heavy episode.
It really is. Now, talk about that same scene. So he's going through the ropes to help make him see the video, that's all that was to delay him to see it.
Yeah.
Now, one theory is, and I want to know what you think, in that video, we talk about the three keepers, essentially, of time.
Right.
These three people who are controlling the timeline, that there was other
timekeepers.
Timekeepers. There was other timelines, and essentially all of them collapsed, and now we have the
multiversal war.
Yeah. Now we got one timeline.
Right. The sacred
timeline. Mm-hmm. Do you think, and if you look at one of the timekeepers...
He looks like
Kang.
He does.
Kang the Conqueror. I don't know if I believe it, though. Yeah. I don't know if they would want to throw it out in this show.
So there's two references to Kang the Conqueror.
Okay.
One is the one you just said. And then at the very end of the episode, when they come across that weapon in Oklahoma and they say it's early third millennia. Well, Kang is from that time period. So it's entirely possible that Kang is somehow connected here. It's also entirely possible that he's not. We do know that at least the, character is rumored to be appearing in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
That's supposed to be his big debut.
Played by Jonathan Majors is who is supposedly cast. It's all still rumor, but it's been corroborated by a lot of sources. Yeah. Marvel has not confirmed it, but it's very much, like most people think it's true.
Yeah.
And
this show would make so much sense for him.
I think this is the type of show that could lay the groundwork for Kang showing up, but then we don't actually see him until Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I would like to at least see the back, like the helmet that he normally wears. Just something small.
Could be.
Because you're right, third millennia, like that doesn't sound like a Loki thing. I'm like, okay.
Well, especially not our sacred timeline Loki, because he
No.
only makes it to 2021 or whatever that is.
He did.
20,
2021, because it 2018. Because they hadn't jumped the 5 years, right?
Yeah, that's right. So because he dies at the beginning of Infinity War. Now, just speaking of Easter eggs,
yes.
have you heard about the other one that people think they've spotted another historic MCU character in the TVA?
Mephisto?
Nope.
Doctor Doom?
Nope.
Then I don't care.
So when Loki's playing with his little thing and he's trying to find Curtis so that he can get the Tesseract,
Yes.
at one point in the background you see someone escorting someone else in.
What's her name?
That looks like
I can't think of her name all of a sudden.
Peggy Carter.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes sense. You could imagine that a lot of our characters in the MCU may have veered off of their timeline at one point or another, and it wouldn't have messed up everything else they did.
Yeah.
But that version would have been brought here to the TVA. So did Peggy Carter, after Captain America sacrificed himself, did she go nuts in one version? And she,
Maybe.
went a little bit off of her timeline and started, trying to get revenge or doing things that she wasn't supposed to do, and now they plucked her out. I mean, I don't know that they're going to tell any more stories.
No, I don't.
But that would be interesting.
Yeah.
It would be interesting.
I did like, so in the courtroom, because we're still all in the TVA, in the courtrooms and all that, what the Avengers did to mess with time was all okay.
Right, that was approved.
And it was like...
It's very convenient
Yeah.
for that to be the explanation.
But I can live with it, though.
But it also, yeah, exactly. It's like, if you're going to introduce this organization that controls the timeline, and yet you're going to say they didn't intervene at any of these other times, it's kind of like the Eternals thing. It's like, why aren't you intervening when these things are happening? Well, it's because... this is what's supposed to happen. This is what prevents another multiversal war.
Exactly.
And so, maybe even, again, 14 million timelines that Doctor Strange looked at. Maybe there were other timelines where the Eternals did intervene, but then the TVA stepped in and said, nope, these are variants, can't do that. So it's very convenient, but it is the only way you can say why didn't they intervene at these other points. I did like how Loki knew that the Avengers had time travel. He's like, I could smell two Tony Starks. I was like,
I smell too close.
That's
so
pretty
wrong.
good. I like that.
It was funny.
Yeah.
And I do like, now, apparently, and I haven't watched, maybe I missed all the extras, there is a deleted scene from Avengers Endgame where they actually do talk about more of the time splitting. And if you watch this deleted scene, it shows the scene with the Ancient One and the Hulk, or Bruce, and they show more of the scene where everything's splitting more. Not just the one that he's like, right. They show all of it, and supposedly it's actually tied to this whole multiverse war kind of thing, or multi-time war thing. So I don't know if that's going to come back around. I would like to see that. I always would like to see deleted scenes come back around somehow. And if this is the way we're tying it, that'd be kind of cool. Yeah. Or I would like to see, like, maybe they do look at an alternate timeline, and that's the conversation. It's now talking about of these things.
Yeah.
But
So let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the big reveal at the end of the episode. The reason that, Owen Wilson's character Mobius wants to talk to Loki and understand what's driving him and what's making him tick and all those things. Why does he want to do this? Because he needs his help to track down another variant who is murdering members of the TVA and also stealing their little reset devices. So we don't know what his purpose is for doing that. And apparently this other variant is another Loki.
Now, and the only thing that we know for sure that we can go off of this with is in the earlier part of the episode, Owen Wilson's talking to a little person, a little child. I'll say a little child.
A little person.
I meant like a little kid.
It was a kid,
I met
yes.
a kid, but
it was like 10 years old or
like
whatever.
Little person. I call kids little person.
A little short, young person.
Young person. So they point at the mural in this church, and it's just the devil's head, essentially, which has the long horns, which he's like, oh, it's Loki. But there's no, I mean, that's the only tie so far we have that it's Loki.
Correct. I mean, we have to assume that Mobius has more information than we saw in this episode.
Yeah,
that
and
is
we'll
leading
hopefully
him
get
to
it.
believe that it is Loki.
I mean, he did really like Loki because when he was talking to Loki, he's like, "I'm a big fan." He seemed to know a lot about Loki.
Right.
So I mean, obviously, you're right. He must know something else.
Yeah.
But again, third millennia gear, I'm gonna lean with Kang. I'm
Yeah.
gonna lean that we're gonna get Kang the Conqueror.
I
Somehow.
don't think Kang is the big villain, but I also am not convinced that it was Loki because
Could it be Mephisto?
well, it strikes me as no, it's not Mephisto, by the way. But it struck me a little bit odd that we didn't see the face of that
Exactly.
character because they had just told us it was another Loki. So if it was, you would have expected to kind of do a close up. Maybe he lifts up his head and you see
Or at least see the horns.
Tom Hiddleston's face.
Yeah.
And they didn't give us that. They just gave us a hooded figure, and it was kind of like, well, if you just told us that it was Loki, you're not trying to hide who it is, but then the scene tells me you are trying to hide who it is. And so in that sense, it's kind of like, okay, which curveball are they going to throw at us? Are they going to throw the curveball at us that it is Loki? And, or is this a curveball where our character of Mobius is wrong, it's not Loki, and they're going to find out later?
What if it's Thor?
I was just about to say that. I was just about to say, what if it's Thor and Mobius is lying to Loki because he knows maybe Loki wouldn't want to track down Thor or something like that. I don't know. But I can't believe you said it before I did.
I didn't know you were thinking.
We literally had never talked about it. I'm so
hadn't.
mad because I was just about to say it.
That's funny. Yeah, because like I agree with you. Something isn't adding up for me because,
Yeah.
like you said, they didn't show his face. And okay, let's face it, Loki isn't so much. I don't care what variant it is. He isn't very much brute force and trying to go fight all these people. We saw no sign of his magic.
Right.
He's not in the Time Variant Authority custody at that point. He's on Earth. He was in Oklahoma, I think, right when he threw the fire or whatever.
Right.
So why isn't he using any of his mischief magic or whatever? Because he could easily just pickpocket anyone in that thing and get the little
I don't know.
thing. So I didn't like that. I don't think it's him because of those things. But I don't know. I kind of would like the idea if it's Kang the Conqueror.
Yep.
Or somehow I know they've said no, it's not Mephisto. They've already come out and said that. So I'm gonna go Doctor Doom.
They're trying to shut down that speculation.
They really
that
are.
WandaVision speculation.
They really are. Maybe
and I
stop
really, even though I just, we joked about it, I really don't think it's Thor because I don't think Chris Hemsworth is showing up in this show.
Because he's too busy. Well, he was too busy filming the other film too.
Well, they filmed Loki a while back and they just wrapped the new Thor. So
that's a good point.
It certainly could have been, but I would just be very surprised if, I think this is a Loki story. I don't think it's going to have Thor in it, but not that I'd be opposed to it because I love their dynamic.
Yeah.
But
no, I agree. So I think something's wrong, especially the third millennia comment throws a huge curveball. I think it's a hint. It's a big hint.
And clearly, whoever this character is, he's time hopping because we see this scene in like 15 whatever,
like
it's in the 1500s in France, and then we see in the 1850s in Oklahoma. So this is a character who maybe those little devices are what allows him to hop through time. We don't know, but he's clearly hopping through time, and also very comfortable with just murdering these groups of people. So
and that's
we'll find out more.
See. So I don't know. I thought it was a very good first episode.
I thought so too.
I think it's probably one of the better first episodes for a series that they've done. For me personally,
out of the three, I think this was the strongest opening episode.
Yeah.
I think Falcon and Winter Soldier really came into its own in episode 2 when we got the dynamic of the two of them together. And WandaVision took until probably episode 4 for me.
I think that
which is when we got outside the bubble.
The bubble.
That's when I really got into it. Yeah. But this one, I feel like right off the bat, I'm totally in. I'm super excited for the next episode. I'm super excited for this whole series. And I hope it, continues to build off of its promise.
I think it will. I think it'd be really good. So stay tuned, guys. And we'll be reviewing this one every week. So next week we'll have episode 2. And let us know down in the comments below what you think of Loki. What you think of it compared to the other first episodes of the other Disney Plus series as well. I'm really curious on what you think. And I want to know, who do you think the villain is? Let us know down below. On that note, stay geeky, guys, and get your geek on.
Bye.